November 2015, in Samarkand city, 5 Central Asian countries and the United States of America signed a joint partnership agreement that known as the Samarkand Declaration C5+1. This format aimed to uniting efforts for build Central Asian region that able jointly common solve problems of security, economy, for creating a stable and developed Central Asia. Nowadays, C5+1 is discussing and working together about projects such to counter terrorism, Central Asian business, and other such projects.
So, the C5+1 has existed for a few years already. We, I think, have demonstrated the utility and the appropriateness of meeting at the ministerial level from time to time. But at the same time, we have begun to operationalize at a more working level specific programs. There are working groups on security, on the economy, and on environment. And in the framework of each of these working groups, we have worked to advance a number of initiatives based on the guidance from the ministers. So these processes are underway. They work fine, but I think that there are still opportunities for us to realize more kind of concrete progress in each of these areas and to continue to take advantage of the growing political consensus between the United States and the leaders of the region to focus on things like return of foreign terrorist fighters and their families, to continue to strengthen border security, to continue to partner together, for example, to take advantage and to support peace and reconciliation in Afghanistan. These are all issues where new opportunities emerge, and the C5+1 framework is a useful framework for taking advantage of those opportunities. One of the broad areas that we are working on is when we provide assistance to countries anywhere in the world. This is assistance that comes from U.S. taxpayers, okay? And it's a political issue in the United States, too, for taxpayers to say, why are we giving money to Kyrgyzstan? Why are we giving money to Botswana? And one of the requirements we have when we are giving such assistance is that we want to make sure that the governments that are receiving this assistance do not tax the assistance. We have provided equipment to help with monitoring of the border and to help equip the border security personnel. And these are all areas where we continue to work with Tajikistan and the other countries of the region. 9 months have also coincided, I believe, with a real renewed focus of attention by the United States on Central Asia.
C5+1 is a long-term cooperation plan that offers the United States to Central Asian countries. In the framework of this short film, it is difficult to completely take about these activities because it is very extensive and work about this direction continues. But no, we will just try to show how to see Americans the ways of development of their long-term partners, and we give some examples of the existing effective partnership of America with nearest countries that to understand what model of integration can offer the United States to Central Asian countries.
Well, look, it's a combination. Again, it's easy for me to say here, but because there are each country and certainly the region as a whole, there are sort of difficulties that you have political that you have to overcome. But I think the combination is not. I'm not suggesting that you cut off all loans. Just as you said, you can serve in your case, in the case of your country, you can service the loans. Well, that's hopefully that is true. And so the loans will be a part of it. But I think the most important thing really is, I think, honest government as much as anything else. Because ultimately, it's not going to be the World Bank, it's not going to be the Chinese, it's not going to be the United States that really are the most important factors in your development. It's the ability to, two things, externally to have a system of government that is honest and efficient, that a private investor around the world will be happy to invest in, to put money in. And then the second most important thing, I think, and maybe we should say that first, is your development of human resources, your basic schooling system.
The Detroit River divides the United States and Canada. The American Detroit city is the largest town in Michigan. It was founded in the 18th century. The history of the city and its current situation closely depend with the car and military industry of the United States. Today, is many programs that work here to attract investment and business, revive and develop the city that suffered during the well-known crisis. This is American office, and such is many in this country. Here, for example, work engineers about electronics development.
I became involved with telematics in 2008. And telematics is driving the new mobility concepts related to automotive, industrial. And our technologies are also used for fleet management, dealership, service shop management, and can be very helpful for mobility in smart cities. I'm not going to get into too much of the technical, because it's highly technical. Under automotive electronics, we provide modules for lighting, small control, switches, and air conditioning control in the vehicle, primarily in the US, India, China, Europe, and Latin America.
Detroit City, as we said, bordered with the Canadian Windsor City. Today, here, between two cross-border cities, work in many projects to develop cooperation about various fields.
So a successful automotive company is only as successful as the universities, as the colleges, as the supply chain that is located next to them. And that's where they need their help. But the automotive industry is really the heartbeat of both of our cities. So Detroit is the motor city, Windsor, Essex is the automotive capital of Canada. And so Mark was right. 1904 was the start of the revolution of the car and was the revolution of our economic prosperity. But now, today, the industry is changing. And so traditional manufacturing is changing. And as regions, we need to change. And so what we're seeing is, and Mark talked about it, connected and autonomous vehicles. It's that new technology that's really becoming an important part of our automotive industries.
I'm Senior Director here for Strategy and Operations. Welcome to Detroit. That's right. Jenny just mentioned that the Detroit Regional Chamber has a very strong policy arm where they're lobbying local, state, federal legislators and policymakers for business-friendly legislation. We have a very small hand in that as it relates to issues unique to our municipality of Detroit. So we will, from time to time, need the help and assistance of various units of government outside of the city.
We do have recruitment programs, we call them business attraction or investment attraction, to bring companies from outside the region in from United States, Canada, any other country. We also have a team that works with businesses who are here but might be looking to expand by hiring new employees or expanding construction with their facility. And we also have a specialty department, which is Susan's department, which concentrates on economic development opportunities that are presented by our geography and our border, our close border to the U.S., especially those involving technology and innovation.
There are ways in which we can reduce the overall cost of utilities. There is training cost that is involved when you bring in employees, and that can be subsidized. There is local incentives where there is tax rebate that is given if there's investment over a certain number and if there's a certain number of employees that are hired as part of that project. So the tax rebate could then help them in recovering the cost of investment.
Special kinship to my friends in Canada, and I get to look at Canada every day. And the trading relationship is very, very strong. Rakesh mentioned the exceptionally strong auto presence of both in his region that he represents and the area that I represent. To give you a small idea of how trade flows across the U.S.-Canada border, the Windsor-Essex Chamber of Commerce or the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce are government entities. And in our case here in the U.S., we have no government members. We have no government funding, and we do not represent the government in any way. So the mechanics of trade, customs, border security, tariffs, anything like that is handled by either Canadian or U.S. government entities, which we are not. So our primary job, both of our organizations, is to represent the interests of business to the various governments, the national government or local governments, to advance business interests in front of government.
Detroit and Canadian Windsor unites several transport communication. They all have nearly 100 years history. For example, this underwater car tunnel from the US to Canada passes under the Detroit River and walked since 1913. Not far from here, there is same railways tunnel. However, the main cargoes between two cross-border cities go through the Ambassador Bridge, the construction of which began in May 1927. The length of this bridge more than 2 kilometers, and nowadays it is the longest suspension bridge that connects America and Canada. And here is the border and customs checkpoint by the Ambassador Bridge. Daily through it passes US-Canada trade above $500 million American dollar. Maybe it is most active border section between two countries.
We, on average, do here at this facility right around 6,000 trucks a day. We process roughly 10,000 passenger vehicles at the two locations. Trying to give kind of an overview of the Port of Detroit. We have 3 crossings. 2 of them are passenger, 1 of them is cargo. Our major importers are obviously Canada and China, but we get parts from all over the world that come in and are either imported and put into cars or being put in and then shipped back out. The procedures are the same for how the paperwork. There may be additional paperwork because of an agricultural product, like a phytosanitary certificate. But then once they get here, the rules for the inspection is always is different.
There's a high risk for contamination. For example, in Michigan, we have a robust agriculture industry. And if there's a threat to the agricultural industry, then we would hold or export that risk back to its country of origin. That authority rests solely with Customs and Border Protection.
And sometimes you find diseases. Inside these rooms were caperneedle. So yeah, these are more likely cerambycids. These are powder post beetles. A lot of it is computer-based systems. We target a lot of cargo shipments in here, so we have access to all those manifests and things like that to make our targeting job easier, where I can see how many times a company's brought things in, stuff like that, so I can determine pest risk. Like if we have an address, I can Google them for a map and see where it's coming from. Like for me, like if I find a company that's out in the middle of the woods, I'm going to hold it for pests because if they don't have good phytosanitary measures in place, I might find insects on that. Our microscopes easily attached to the computers that allow us to take nice images. I know you guys can't take pictures of them, but a lot of those those are pictures that we take before we send them to the USDA. And even just everything originally was like we had paper logs, and I hate those. They drive me crazy. So we can put everything on Excel and keep track of items that way. So, but a lot of stuff we still have to inspect it and look at it to find our insects, but computers can help us do that.
For stats, just for Detroit field office last year, we see 600 pounds of cocaine, 8.5 pounds of ecstasy, nearly 500 pounds of marijuana, over 10 pounds of fentanyl, which is enough to kill nearly over 5 million people.
He's got to do the calculator.
Yeah, something like that.
It's kilograms.
Millions.
Yeah, it's millions. We seized nearly $8 million of U.S. currency, of unreported currency. Had 550 arrests at our nation's borders, and also seized 62 firearms trying to come into the country.
Here, preparing the place for construction new bridge, which will also connect Detroit and Windsor, and will named of the Canadian hockey player Gordie Howe. The bridge will have a 6-line highway with roads for pedestrian and bicycle, as well as special noise barrier and systems for protecting the local ecology. Today, it is the largest by territory and construction project between America and Canada, and funded by the Canadian side, and costs more than $3 billion. Expanded that construction will be complete in 2024.
This is an artist's illustration of one of the pedestrian bridges that we will be building over I-75. Heather talked about the liaison with the community and community input. This design actually was chosen by the community, and some of the elements in the design and the actual engineering of the bridge were also chosen by the community, including safety. These are walls, so obviously you can't go across, safety, lighting, even things down to the actual aesthetic design of the bridge, of the pedestrian bridges. This is the Canadian port of entry. So again, 53 hectares, so 130 acres. The largest on the Canadian, U.S. border on the Canadian side. This is where I was talking about how all vehicles going into Canada will be paying the tolls on the Canadian side. They'll be coming in, going through inspection. Once they go through inspection, they'll start on the bridge, going across the bridge onto the U.S. side. Essentially, the ports of entry are what you visited today at the Ambassador Bridge. It's the inspection plaza. They're large plots of land, but they do much more than inspection of just passengers and commercial vehicles. They also look at inspection of livestock and agricultural products that come across. The thing is, it's just a matter of geography. Where we were on the Canadian side, and we were very close, and we made a brand new highway extension. Here on the U.S. side, you're not as close to the highway, so you need to build ramps. It's a number of factors. Essentially, they are the same size. And essentially, we have a common culture. That's number one. We are the second largest country in the world, but we've had the longest undefended border between two countries anywhere in the world. So Canada and the United States have a border. We don't have a wall. That's probably not I didn't mean that as a joke, but we don't have a wall. We don't have fences. There's some geography that separates the two countries, like rivers and, that sort of thing.
It's all that we learn about America during our short stay in this country. American experience will probably become one of examples to research for countries of Central Asia, the basis of the development each of their, most likely same as in America and any other country of the world, depend from cooperation and mostly with nearby countries. All the more so, our Central Asian region has a 1,000 years history of dialogue with many countries, taking into considering common interests, for example, along the Great Silk Road, and the potential of C5+1 may become one of the opportunities to overcome existing barriers to the implementation of mutually beneficial strategic projects in the whole region of Central Asia, and each country separately.